Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5, well actually live at 5:25. Anyway, had some major slowdowns in in my computer. I think one of the things is if you don't update now, they make it very difficult for you to carry on. Anyway, I think it's about time I clean out my computer and give Microsoft a call, and they kind of take me through different things. It's really cool. It doesn't cost me a dime or a nickel or a cent, even though we don't use that anymore. So live at 5. If you're new to live at 5, there's 3 segments. One is something completely different or new. You get the gist. And then 2, we're just going to roll and dive with current news, current info, things that are kind of coming up. And then we're going to actually go into some jokes or laughing. But I'm just going to go, I want to get a book. I moved it, and it should be right here. But I didn't bring it back here, and I absolutely want to refer to it. So whether this is done or not, it is the way it is, and we will get this book. I wanted to read something from the Homo Deus book, and even though I'm going to further elaborate on it in the presentation, when in fact the good thing about giving a presentation over 2.5, 3 hours is you can kind of piece things together, and for some, for the 30 minutes here, 50 minutes, an hour, there's just no way to kind of capture everything and anything and give you the background sometimes needed, and plus to do exercises. So Homo Deus, I really want to read you some, I don't know, what does the UK guy call it? Shite from this book. And I have recently spoken to people who have met the author, not met the author, but actually watched the author, either in interviews, which I have been avoiding doing because of just how crazy the information is in this book. Why don't we just start? No, let's start because I say something completely new. I'm going to show you something, and I've been practicing my dowsing more and more this year anyway, so I'm just going to do this in kind of in front of you. So have you heard of shilajit? Now maybe people say it a little different. It's like an ooze, a mineral, or something that comes from the mountains, the Himalayan mountains, let's say. And this is powder form, but you could probably get it in liquid. Anyway, it is supposed to be, and I've heard this over the years, so I'm just going to tell you my own personal story with it. When I took nutrition, and I was signed up correspondence because that made most sense to me. I had a busy work and sometimes traveling, so correspondence was the ultimate best for me. I learned through some of the things in there that they had these formulas, and I'm going, it does absolutely make no sense to have the detailed formulas of nutrients, let's say, to help with certain symptoms or conditions. So then I called up the school and asked them, if I'm going to do my assessment work and there's already something out there that actually exists for these layout, this mouse C, this A, D, whatever it is, and they said, yes, it is. There's actually, and at the time, it's called now Vitamost, and I had the person came in, which I still should probably catch up with people, but Gilda, and she explained that those supplements had a little bit of shilajit in all of them, which really upped the vibration. Now, if you're familiar with the Kirlian machine, and that machine, what it does is it shows the kind of like I guess through it, I don't know how it works exactly. Always something to look up and learn. But it shows you the vibration, the energy vibration. And if you have no shilajit in the supplements, and I think they put them in all of the supplements, then it was, not as bright as where they put them into the supplement. So shilajit. So this is supposed to be really to raise up the vibration. There's a lot. I mean, this is just basically from, the earth, directly from the earth. And probably dehydrated, very simple enough. It's just like you having anything, mud or anything or something, water-based. You take the water out of it, and that's what you got left over. So very potent from that respect. So when I was at a David Wolf presentation, there was a few things I purchased, and one of the things that I purchased, and a lot of, a couple cups still left in here, I transferred it from the plastic bag into a glass bag. I recommend that sometimes if you're going to have things around for a long time, but so much in here, I still have it after a handful of years. But I wanted to douse to see if it was still good, if this shilajit here is still good. And so I just have a crystal, and so basically I just ask, show me a yes, and I say, show me a no, and you can see it goes in circles. And I'm not doing anything. So is this product very good still? Yes, it is. Now, sometimes when it gets really excited, it goes really big. Almost, I have seen it go bigger than this, but this is pretty strong if we got to think about dowsing. So without doing anything, okay, my name is Sandra, and then you know what? It goes in circles. My name is not Sandra. Anyway, so I thought I would do that because I kind of brought the jar out and boom, boom, after having to restart my computer, I'm just going to do it online, because dowsing is one of those things, if you get in tune with it, it can be helpful. It doesn't mean you go absolute this, but it's almost validates your gut, if you want to say it that way as well. And at times it can really shorten certain things. Let's say you're going to go through a book and it's got certain information in the book, and maybe it's relevance to you or a client or somebody else, and you go, okay, is the how can I say it, the condition or whatever it is in the first half of the book? No. Second half of the book? Yes. Well, it better have a yes and a no. And so then you can kind of go, okay, is it in the half of the whatever? You can say between pages, or you can actually go through the chapters and see what chapters it is in, and kind of figure out. So it's almost like a narrowing down, but dowsing. So let's, so that's what I want to talk about is shilajit. I'll look up a page, a web page on it, see if I can find something extremely simple, but it's yeah, it's probably just a bunch of good stuff and then some that they haven't identified, but just something from the earth, something that is nature, and it resonates. And this is yeah, it just reminded me for my presentation, which is now, I've got the date, September 22nd. Yeah, it's probably about a month later than I would have liked, but I'm rolling and diving in certain information, certain things are coming up, I'm asking certain questions and researching that kind of stuff. And then to kind of come out with a succinct but very informative, that's just my nature, to inform, and then you can make better choices at the end of the day. So I really want to come through with, it's in my book anyway, but I did like 3 months of research on what are we made of, because there's this thing that just kept circulating in the nutrition world, or if you were studying what nutrients do we need, and it would talk to 90 plus nutrients that we would need. So I went in and started researching what the body was made up of, from the muscle to the bone to the enzymes to the acids, that are there, the membranes, all the body. What is the body made? So I am going to include that into the presentation, and then plus go into one of the favorites that is mine, and it just turns out to be a lot of, favorite of a lot of people, doctors included, that attend my presentation, is the stages of disease. And I want to bring that in so the root causes of disease. End of story. So let's go into Homo deus, because that's really what I want to do. But I will post plenty, hopefully this week. Tomorrow I have like a full day at my disposal to check in with my little list of things here to get done. And that would be the first thing, is to at least put some sort of a preliminary page together. And I am going to charge for it. I doused that, and what to charge for it, because I like to do things for free. But if I do everything for free, then it kind of doesn't work in the long run. So I would rather continue to bring you information over and over again. So let me find where I am. Okay. Oh, and I got lots of notes. I just want to say that every time I bring not this book out from him, there we go, Homo Deus, but the Sapiens book out, and I got all the notes and my notes and yellow sticky notes and lots of notes. And, you know, people want to read it. They just go, oh, would you lend that to? Nope, because I refer to it. But one person had a good idea, and that was for me to, and it's 450 pages at the end of the day, would be actually to scan the pages. Now, I'm not even sure that'd be allowed, and then they could read, you know, the notes, that kind of thing. But getting back into Homo Deus, just want to finish the flippin' book. And the equation of life is the part that this one's in. And the interesting thing about this section, and I'm going to read some things here. And, you know, the funny thing is, one of the coolest parts here is the people that he mentions, Yuval mentions in Homo Deus books, tells me who's all part of the, whatever we want to call it, the side that wants to divide, the side that wants to confuse, the side that wants to control. Now, when I say control, it's from his crazy words, long and twisting journey. Yeah, it's a little dramatic here. But let me see if I can just grab in where I want to do. So I'll just start with this, and then I'll see. I might just jump around a little bit. You might argue that we need a mind because the mind stores memory, makes plans, and autonomously sparks completely new images and ideas. Well, it doesn't just respond to outside stimuli. For example, when a man sees a lion, he doesn't react automatically to the sight of the predator. He remembers that a year ago a lion ate his aunt. Like that kind of happens. And he imagines how he would feel if a lion tore him to pieces. Like, this guy gets a little graphic, I have to say. He contemplates the fate of his orphaned children, and that's why he flees. Indeed, many chain reactions begin with the mind's own intuitive rather than with any immediate external stimulus. Yes, we do have that. But interesting enough, I'm going to bounce down here. But wait a moment. So he's talking about that. Wait a moment. What are all these memories, imaginations, and thoughts? Where do they exist? According to current biological theories, your memories, imaginations, and thoughts don't exist in some higher immaterial field. Rather, they too are avalanches of electrical signals fired by billions of neurons. Hence, even when we figure in memories, imaginations, and thoughts, we are still left with a series of electrochemical reactions. Now, kind of unpacking this, but get kind of where he's going with this. As in, he's bringing it down to something tangible, okay? So I'm going to get into human augmentation here. That passes through billions of neurons, yep, ending with the activity of adrenal glands and leg muscles. As you're running away from a lion, right? So he jumps into what physically science can see. That's what this author is jumping in with. So let's continue here. Is there even a single step on this long and twisty journey where between the action of one neuron and the reaction of the next, the mind intervenes and decides whether the second neuron should fire or not? Getting you to question, is there any material movement of even a single electron that is caused by a subjective experience of fear rather than but prior movement of some other particle? If there is no such movement, and if every electron moves because another electron moved earlier, then why do we need to experience fear? And he says, we have no clue. That's our first clue. He has no friggin' clue. Okay? So, then he goes on, oh man, how much crap can be in one flippin' page or two with this book. Philosophers have encapsulated this riddle in a trick question. What happens in the mind that doesn't happen in the brain? And if nothing happens in the mind except what happens in our massive network of neurons, then why do we need the mind? Yeah, so he's trying to throw away the mind, your mind. Now, if something does indeed happen in the mind over and above what happens in the neural network, where the hell does it happen? Well, I'd never want to tell him or a number of other people who are into this transhumanism or human augmentation or part machine, part man. I would never want to tell them anyway, to tell you the truth. So, then he goes on. Suppose I ask you what Homer Simpson, yeah, he's all part of the club, thought about Bill Clinton. He's absolutely part of the club. And the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So you have probably never thought about this before. Well, I don't really want to think about what he wants me to think about anyway, to tell you the truth. So your mind now needs to fuse two previously unrelated memories, perhaps conjuring up an image of Homer drinking beer while watching the president give his "I did not have sexual relations with that woman" speech. See, that's how they work, people. They work like this. You are reading this, and if you're not paying attention enough, you're reading this comment, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." And that's what they want to brainwash you with. They have these phrases in here, what they want you to believe, and they completely embed them in confusion. Like, what's he actually even talking about at the end of the day? So where does this fusion take place? Crazy, eh? So then it goes on, this page here. But some brain scientists argue that it happens in the global workspace created by the interaction of many neurons. So again, back to everything happens because of the neurons. Yet the word workspace is just a metaphor. And again, I'm going to say some of these terminologies is getting us to think part machine. Really, workspace. What is the reality behind the metaphor? Well, what do the different pieces of information actually, where do the pieces of information actually meet and fuse? According to current theory, that's the operable word there, theory, it certainly doesn't take place in some platonic fifth dimension. Listen, he has no friggin' clue down here, and yet over here, he's sure that there's no fifth dimension or anything else. So rather, it takes place, say, where two previously unconnected neurons suddenly start firing signals to one another. Well, really, you have no clue, and then you have a lot of clue. A new synapse is formed between the Bill Clinton neuron and the Homo Simpson neuron. Really? How does he know that? Not. So why do we need the conscious experience of memory over and above the physical event of two neurons connecting? Oh my God! Is this guy an idiot or what? Anyway, I'm just going to give you a flavor of how I talk to this book when I read it. But anyway, there you go. I'm going to read that again. But if so, first of all, it's theory. Secondly, he's already admitted he has no friggin' clue. Why do we need the conscious experience of memory over and above the physical event of the two neurons connecting? Aha. And then he goes on, well, we can pose the same riddle in mathematical terms. Present-day dogma holds that organisms are algorithms. Really? And that algorithms can be presented in mathematical formulas. Now, listen, I have heard many times math. But here's what I'm going to say. You know, at some level, math, if you see something, you can probably make sense of it mathematically. But what I'm picking up and sensing is it's not always that way. There may be, how can I say it, more than just the math. That the math comes out as it does, but there's more to the math than just the math that is able to explain certain things. So, because some people say everything is math, but what if that is really just a piece of it, or a way to understand it in the way that mathematics understands things, but it doesn't mean it's figured it out. Because listen, I just kind of popped into my head. Well, if math is everything and everything is math, then why can't they figure out cancer? Why can't they figure out MS or many of these multitudes of conditions and symptoms that people have? Why can't they figure out using math? They can't, can they? You can use numbers and mathematical symbols to write the series of steps a vending machine can take to prepare a cup of tea, and the series of steps of the brain takes when it is alarmed by the approach of a lion. Well, it would be great if they put in the details, and if so, and if conscious experience fulfills some important function, they must have a mathematical representation. Perhaps not. But the idea, as they go on, what happens into the mind that doesn't happen in the brain? Well, something. And where does that something happen? In the neurons. Okay, back to the brain, and then nothing. And so why do we need the mind? Like, it goes through a diagram. And so for the next few pages, because I think there's about 5 or 6 pages here, they erode the purpose of the mind, erode something that they can't find anything about. They can see physically the neurons firing, but here's the thing: you take out the nerves and then you have no communication. I can see how they're presenting that, but they have no idea what they're taking out. They don't even know what it is purpose is. So to go take it out. Anyway, it goes on. I'm not going to read any more of this shite, as some UK people does. But if you're going to study this book, this already is good. So it's really, it goes into automobiles and how automobiles can drive themselves. And I hear there's been accidents with that too. And I'm just reading my notes here. Yeah, a car does all without any problem. No, I've heard they have not. But without any consciousness either. See, that's how they start thinking about how automation can be everything. You really don't need. But we're going to compare a car with man? I don't think so. So the idea is, and then it says, yep, and the autonomous car isn't special. So trying to get you to move away from the mind isn't special at the end of the day. And many other computer programs make allowances for their own actions, yet none of them has developed consciousness, and none feels or desires anything. Well, good for the computer. They can just be like that. That's the difference between man and the computer. And so if most people don't know, what do the psych drugs do for people? They actually cut you off from your head to your heart, essentially remove your ability or remove the emotions, so you're not feeling whatever that sadness is for the reason it is, or frustration, whatever it is. Psych drugs are changing things in a way that you do not get to feel. So cutting off your emotions. And that's why they were giving them to military, because they become discompassionate, right? And so therefore do what they need to do, and they don't have to use their emotions to think. Let's see what else I have. Who is to say anything has changed? Lots of control. The history of science is replete with abandoned concepts and theories. So he does circle around at times. If we cannot explain the mind, and if we don't know what function it fulfills, why not just discard it? That's a line. Page 134 of this crazy book, Homo Deus. I'm going to leave you there because it just continues to go on and on. Oh, yeah, and then it goes down, should we even take God's existence seriously? Now, if we're part of God, if we're gods in some way, not God as in a full being like thing, but ability to manifest, ability to be telepathic, the ability to choose, the ability to create, the big, sort of like that kind of thing. So anyway, he goes on and on and on about that part and experiences and emotion, and then he says here, yep, from a purely neurological perspective, when a human is tortured or raped, certain biochemical reactions happen in the brain, and various electrical signals move from one bunch of neurons to another. So what could possibly be wrong with that? That's so at the end of the day, that little piece that I read had to be, well, listen, if we play with your brain, if we play with your mind, which they don't even know what the mind is, but they want to play with it, and remove the ability to feel, for example, what's wrong with torture and rape? What? So at any rate, here, what could be, they want to take the mind and do not have a mind, because at the end of the day, what you need to do, your neurons will need to do it some way, shape, or form. Seems a lot more mechanical than anything else. And yep, most modern people have ethical qualms about torture and rape because of the subjective experiences involved. Yeah, so we'll just take the mind out. We'll just take out the emotions, the feelings, and the experiences he feels, or whoever feels, many people feel, and just discard it and make it so that you can't feel them, don't need to feel them. It's just whatever it is. It happens, probably happens a lot more than we think. Anyway, it goes on, and he just goes back and forth. He confuses things. He talks about, billions of creatures for millions of years is just mental pollution. Yeah, let's just have you forget about the experiences from what you've learned to how you grow, man's experience. Now, what I will say as part of reading this is the change with man would not be a bad thing, where we are coming in a place of being respectful for each other, understanding, compassion, almost taking away all of the dark side that he mentions in the book, which is the dark side of capitalism, which would include the institutions, and I would include the stock market in that. I would include a lot of things in that. The way they've run medical all these years, church as what most people don't know it to be. So all these institutions, systems, the way they run things, from the banking. I even thought this past weekend that economics itself, a creation of that course, a creation of what that means, gross national, product, and all these terminologies that are kind of used in there within the currency, within blah, 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 is all crap as well. It's part of a system. Do I know that absolutely to be true? No. I mean, I've been in risk management. I've traded commodities. Math was one of my favorite subjects. Math. I don't shy away from math. I was in a special math class because of my ability to work with numbers and math. And so most things would be made complicated. Don't use most things, but that's kind of how it does. It kind of goes with it. Anyway, Homo Deus, I am sure I am going to bring this book on live at 5 again, almost positive, because out of 450 pages, I'm only on one page, 137. So you're assured I can definitely tell you, it's probably gonna trigger me here and there to bring it up. Why? Why would I do that? I do it because to bring awareness, because what this book does is actually brings things out to the open. And most people wouldn't give it a second thought, because why wouldn't they give it a second thought? Because it's not in their day-to-day doings. It's almost like a fiction, if you want to call it that, where I'm sure I'm going to know when things are coming. I'm sure somebody is going to make the best decision for me, which is what we don't want to do. We really want to move the responsibility from your health to your financial to your emotional. We want to move all of that to the individual, and not feeling like we all have to group in one side or the other, right? This whole divide and conquer thing, fall into one side or the other, because the other side can just be as cliquey as judgmental, righteousness, all of those things, cultish. It can still have the same thing going on one side as it can be on the other side. Yeah, so that's enough about that. So what did I want to bring up today? Yes, watching Hugo Talks. Hugo Talks is from the UK. I'll post the video. And one of his videos was regarding a scientist, I believe a scientist, don't quote me on it, was writing, let's say, the UK government about what's in the vaccine, what is in the injection. And they wrote a letter back, which was shown and read, and really they said, we cannot disclose it, it's proprietary information. So if this is an experimental drug on one hand, and you can't know what's in it, and it's safe and effective, that's it, that's all you get to hear. I'm sorry, if you're injecting anything into a body, they should disclose it. It is even more pertinent that they disclose it rather than the food that you put in your mouth, because the food that you put in your mouth, at least, it's like an external tube, at least your body has an opportunity to not absorb it, right? So you have a defense there with your digestive system. But if you put it directly into the body with a sharp pointy object in this case, this is different. This changes it up completely. So it's really odd, but not so odd, understanding the events, that an institution would not disclose, but it doesn't surprise me at all. So what do they call it? They call it the API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient. So the active pharmaceutical ingredient, they do not want to disclose. They all should disclose it, in my opinion, and I don't know why. Well, I do kind of know why people wouldn't ask for it, because they don't know to ask for it, and they don't understand how the body works, because as soon as you have access directly into the body, shit can happen. And this is where sepsis happens, when your blood gets an infection and you can die. Sepsis. Look that word up. It's probably a word everybody should understand, because you are exposed to getting sepsis anytime you have open surgery, anytime they've cut into the body. In fact, Dr. Simoes, way back when, I know I've mentioned this time and time again, it's a great story for everybody to remember, not so great as to what it meant, but the idea was, earlier when the hospitals, because we always didn't have hospitals, were invented, created, let's say, they didn't have a microscope, so they didn't know there were microbes on the doctor's hands when they went from an autopsy to delivering a baby. And they didn't wash their hands. They did not wash their hands, but there's a significant key difference here. The microbes on things that are dying or being recycled to the earth, let's say, are so different than the living microbes. I'm definitely going to go through this in more detail and within lots of context in my presentation, because this is so fundamental to how we have bought into, or how we've been through the system, the institutions, been fed information about the germs and germ theory. That's the key word there. Theory. Never been proven. If it were right, I think we'd be a lot further along with resolving the diseases. But because they're doing it ass backwards to make money, then you're not going to get results. And I've said this before. You go to the Cancer Society, the Diabetes International website, and you look at the stats of what they're projecting, and there's like zero confidence in any of their research. I mean zero, I mean less than zero confidence in finding the cure for diabetes or for cancer. I'll stick with cancer. Zero, zero, negative, negative, because they're just projecting larger and larger numbers. And why is that? Are they using a model? And if they're using a model, which they probably are, because that's how you can only project mathematically into the future, because you're going to have to show people how you got that. So somehow they're looking at the increases of cancer over time, and they're projecting it into the future. Simple as that. As simple as that. Because we really haven't resolved. You can't resolve something in the body with poison. You just can't. And when you understand the stages of disease, you'll see exactly how everything fits in. I want to say perfectly, but it's not the right word. But it all fits in. But there is room for, how can I say, colorfulness, because not everybody is the same. Not everybody, everybody's unique. So that's what you're going to have it that way. What else was I going to talk about? Yeah, what's up, Doc Assistant? There's definitely some really good videos out there where doctors come up to the podium at school board meetings, let's just call it that, and they speak with such passion and let the people on the board who are looking like they don't really, it's just not sinking in the information that they're talking about, would absolutely have the research. They would have the information, the scientific information that would actually back up everything that they're saying to the board. So the idea with that is it's there. He tells them they're there. So, and the possibility is that these people are going to get an inkling of what's really going on here at a certain level, and that would be awesome. So we can hope for that. I will post these two videos. I'm always grateful again for people sending in information. And modelers were astronomically wrong models. Well, aren't we in this position with the projection from a model from somebody from the UK, but apparently does not really have a good reputation in it, but is definitely useful, because models can really, it's like statistics. You just have to play with it and put in what you think is part of the equation, and it'll give you whatever damn result you want. You want it to seem like there's going to be more people dying. You want it, yeah, you can do that with modeling. It's math, it's statistics, it's playing with numbers, and I could not find a darn thing on what's in the model. It couldn't be too complicated. Even if it was 30 pieces, I could understand it. So it's not too complicated at the end of the day. If you know math, you just got to look at the individual pieces, and you got to have inputs, and the inputs got to come from somewhere. And that should be all disclosed, in my opinion. If you're going to look and have a model that they're going to pull from, of course they don't want you to know. Of course they don't want anybody to know. That's all part of it. Well, hello, Howard. Anyway, I'm going to say hello there. So I'm going to show these two because that's my next thing I wanted to mention. Get emails. Everybody gets emails here. Some get more, some get less. Some they don't want. But at the end of the day, because I have a daughter in high school, I get from the trustee. I get. I think I signed up with some political parties. I get those as well, and I read them and I follow through with some of the information, the links, to see what they're saying. I want to see what they're saying. So I write back to the school trustee and tell her certain things and ask her, where is the science that you quote in your email? Doesn't really use it, doesn't respond it, no direct things. And then she responds, well, I guess we're going to have difference of opinions. But basically, if I'm thinking about a trustee, they should have no opinion in some respects. They should be neutral and hearing everybody speak. That's my opinion. So I wrote back again, and I gave her these two doctors' links so that she could actually hear them, because it's directly regarding the school and the children, so very relevant. And I sent the Dr. Riddle one on the masks and how they don't work. Why not? all we can do is keep going and trying to inform people, because some people have no clue. They are in a situation where they're listening to their superiors, they're listening to the people who are in the meetings, they're listening to the news, they're going by what we have deemed as authorities and experts, when they're not the only authorities, and we should question them anyway. We should question them anyway, regardless. So that's probably speaks actual facts. Wonderful. Thank you again, Howard. Howard is awesome in providing probably more links than we need, but at the same time, they're always informative. There's so many links I have open here. Let me just see a couple things I want to talk to. So yeah, feel free to send out email responses to emails that you're getting, and just ask them questions and see what you get back. Obviously, the never going to do injection documentation is obviously that song that's been sung for a while is starting, that tune is starting to change. You know, it's starting to change. And having watched various news, I think on Thursday, you can see how they're just prepping things up. One, the government is going, well, you know, you shouldn't do it. But then you've got the corporate, you've got major groups stepping forward. Well, if they're not going to do it, we're going to do it. And they're doing that, as you can see. And also the federal employees needing to do this, needing to do that. Everybody I speak to who's through with this nonsense in some respect still do not have an understanding of what's in the injections, and they choose to get them so that they can travel. That's a big thing. If I'd have to say, everybody that has gotten them that weren't going to get them, you know, they were going to wait, but because they have places somewhere else, they usually travel, they are getting them because they say we need to get them. And obviously I'm not traveling for a while in a song, but I'm going to put up some human augmentation stuff. I did bring up the book. Oh, this is funny. Let me see if I can actually bring up the book quickly here from the UK government website that actually speaks to, let's see here if this is it or not. Yes, it is. So if need be, I'm going to, it's a PDF, and it's a PDF link, and Human Augmentation, The Dawn of a New Paradigm. It's about 110 pages. It's a strategic implications project. So strategic implications, I don't know. It's like, and the picture on there, because I've talked this before, is a robot and a human or man's hands, and in the middle there's a DNA. And you haven't heard the latest that I definitely need to explore more and more, is in fact we don't have any DNA. It's a created medical thing, science thing, created so that they can use certain treatments and stuff like that, referring it to genes, right? Your genes. Remember the Genome Project? Busted. Nothing really happened with it. Well, they did, and discovered that they don't know what they know. They can't figure it out. They're baffled. So there might be some truth to that, that we don't have any DNA, and that the various people who actually kind of thought about it weren't the ones that got the credit for it. The credit was given by that. So here's a disclaimer. I find this very funny. The content of this publication does not represent the official policy or strategy of the UK government. Okay, it's on their website, and that of the UK's Ministry of Defence. And this is where I always go back into seeding your mind. Okay, we won't take any responsibility for if something you read in here you do not like. Well, it's not our, it's this group within here that just going a little bit wild. Furthermore, the analysis and findings do not represent the official policy or strategy of the countries contributing to the project. There's Germany involved here. There's Finland involved. I know it's further on in another article that talked about various countries, but and that of the UK's Ministry of Defence. So this is the Ministry of Defence and the Office for Defence Planning in Germany. That's part of this. And under the UK Government Concepts and Doctrine Centre, doctrine, I wonder what doctrine they're trying to sell. It is based on combining current knowledge and wisdom. I don't see any wisdom making half machine, half man, with subject matter experts. There's a big word at subject matter experts, with assessments of potential progress in technologies 30 years out, supporting deliberations and deductions for future humans and society. Human augmentation is the title, people. So they really, it's a dawn of a new paradigm. Well, let's just cross that paradigm. I'm going to say a dawn of a new stupidity, actually. And but understand that this whole thing is just ongoing experimentation from the Second World War to what we got wind of, written about, and been somewhat told about. That they were doing there, and they moved the experimentation to the America and who knows where else. The HIV, but it's not HIV because AIDS is not related to that at all. There's an experiment there, trying to change up things in the body and maybe depopulation all at the same time. So I have to finish this, but I tell you, where is the forward? Oh, I had to laugh. I wish I could have done, you know what, if I download this, then I can yellow it. But this whole forward here is crazy stuff. It doesn't say much, and if you go through the contents, then again, you're going to see a little bit of what it is, but it's to study this and determine, they're not telling you everything. So the prospect of using technology radically enhance human performance has been the subject of intense debate over the last 2 decades. So remember, the prospect of using technology to radically enhance human performance. Now, what's wrong with our performance? Do we need to run any faster? They don't like drug doping, so what's that about? Can't be, as far as performance goes with athletes, has been subject to intense debate. I can imagine ethical reasons which they will put in there on both sides. Some analysis has been pessimistic and cautionary, downplaying just how eminent such technologies are. You see what they're saying there? Downplaying. I think it's okay to be pessimistic. It's okay to be cautionary. But in some ways, I would say it's perfectly fine to question. Perfectly fine to question. So the idea here, just like Homo deus and sapiens, we're saying, oh, it's going to happen. You know, you can't stop it. And that's what they mean by here, eminent such technologies are. Other commentators are more optimistic and foresee an impending technological revolution that will radically transform every aspect of our lives. Now, you start opening up every aspect of our lives. Wow. That brings a whole other thing to the meaning behind the technological revolution. What do they mean exactly? Because every aspect is every aspect. What is certain is that the field of human augmentation has the potential to transform society, security, and defense over the next 30 years. Now, if we're trying to get away from war and be peaceful, this document seems that part of what they want to do for human transformation, there is Ministry of Defense name on this, although they're not taking responsibility, that this is what they're thinking about. They're thinking about fear as that some other country is going to come and, we're going into a direction that doesn't actually help mankind, doesn't get us going forward in the peaceful way. So we must begin to understand the implications of these changes and shape them to our advantage now. Yeah, we've got those big wars coming up before they are thrust upon us. And when we think of human augmentation and enhancing human performance, they're talking about changing humans here, not just bringing in the robots or the missiles, or, I mean, they got all this technology, but yet they're moving. So let's continue to unpack the next two paragraphs for the fun of it. Technology in warfare, there you go, has traditionally centered on increasingly sophisticated platforms that people move and fight from, or artifacts that they wear or wield to fight with. Advances in the life sciences and converging developments in related fields are, however, beginning to blur the line between technology and the human. Beginning to blur. How about you're forcing it to blur? Significant thought has already been given to this, to what this means for artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics, but comparatively little time has been given to what this means from a human perspective. Oh, I'd love to hear more. This project seeks to address this imbalance. Really, imbalance. Oh, too much automation and robotics. Yep. Now we want to bring in the humans here and see what we can experiment with them on them this time. Never mind just this. Or cutting and dicing and giving all kinds of poisons, so that we can understand the potential of human augmentation and its implications. Well, let's just keep it at understanding, huh? The project is a bilateral cooperation between the Bundeswehr Office for Defense Planning in Germany and the Development Concepts and Doctrine Center in the UK. Well, there you go. You got Germany and England working together this time. Sounds like a different time. The output from the strategic implications projects will be relevant to a wide audience across the defense and security sector. Whilst this is not a scientific publication, it draws extensively on research to provide an overview of where the key opportunities and threats are. Again, we're not working towards peace. Nope. Many technologies that have the potential to deliver strategic advantage out to 2050 already exist, and further advances will undoubtedly occur. Our understanding of the technical, ethical, legal, and societal implications of these technologies, human augmentation that is, will be decisive in how transformative they prove to be for defense. Again, it's all about defense, seemingly. Our potential adversaries will not be governed by the same ethical and legal considerations that we are, and they are already developing human augmentation capabilities. Really? Well, we must keep up to the Joneses out there. They may just have these superhumans. What have we been seeded in the past? Yes. The $6 million man and the bionic woman. Yes, we have been seeded through Hollywood. Our key challenge will be establishing advantage in this field without compromising the values and freedoms that underpin our way of life. Well, isn't that very nice and soft to add right at the end? Anyway, I'll post this. I'm happy to post this augmentation PDF so it helps. But really, if anybody wants to dive into it further, all you have to do is put human augmentation. What's the other one? Transhumanism. These different titles, artificial intelligence, you can really kind of get a feel for what whoever they are trying to get across. It doesn't mean they're giving you all of the facts or all of the details. It's more of an acceptance that this is the way to go. It's the same with Homo deus. They mention this theory, think this, don't need this here, bring in all these emotional stories, and then, just freaking confuse the heck out of you, in my opinion. So that is enough for that today, because we're just going to go into, we just really have to use a lot of common sense. That's what I'm going to say. And what I've learned more and more over time is to keep it simple. Common sense, keep it simple, And I know I'm doing this presentation. It's a present. I like that. It's a present. It's important, I think, that when certain people, and I know myself as I'm very presentation oriented and research oriented and common sense and stepping back oriented, and trying to put the pieces together to make some sense, to simplify it. So I've learned more and more that we can just simplify it. We can just simplify it. That there's the abundance of information, the thinking you got a whole course to be an expert in. All of that direction has just led to more confusion and too much information, life, that kind of stuff. I was going to talk about stimulants because I think stimulants is something you can keep top of mind when it comes to things. Stimulant. Is this stimulating me? Is that how I am benefiting from it? Somebody was telling me a story where a guru was giving out herbs, but at the same time was giving something that would stimulate. So they felt great. They felt great and spending still lots of money. This guy, then he was caught. So lots of crazy stories just like that out in the world. So if you don't want to be caught with your pants down, then pull up those pants and put common sense in one pocket, questioning in another pocket, and don't give away your power. Well, you can if you want. That's up to you. I can't make you do anything. But the idea is a lot of people they have given away, to something, organization, or certain people, white coats as we can call them too as well. But there's no broad paintbrush for broad stroke against anything that I'm probably saying. It will be the first disclaimer I would say. That does not exist, right? All doctors, no. No. So we definitely have not that. Always understand that I would never mean that there's no broad stroke, blah, 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 and we can go from there. So definitely there is a number of things that kind of happen in our health because of stimulants, from coffee, just even that itself. I take everybody off of coffee and or work with them to, if they're on 8 cups, well, then now they're on 3 cups or 2 cups. And but still working it out of their system because of the dependence that people have on stimulants. And and then there's the kind of the anti-stimulants like the alcohol, the smoking up that just dulls and numbs, all that kind of stuff. You can't drive with it on, being on too much alcohol in your blood. You can't drive with smoking. You can't drive. Well, then therefore you're not thinking clearly, and so it is dumbing down. Sure, you're not getting emotional. It's just like the psych drugs. It's kind of cutting you off from that or making you feel nice, and it's just whatever it is. It kind of just takes away from the things you have to look at. Now, I'm not going to say you have to look at it, but if we're going to move forward up the ladder of growth and possibilities, then that's the way to kind of proceed that way. So yes, we talked about a bit here. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, and there is a few videos that I want to watch as well, but I'm going to thank everybody for continues to send me the links. Sometimes I do watch them and I don't bring them up here. Partially it's because I just don't want to beat a dead horse. Quite often there's a lot of people speaking about certain things. If there's certain things that are relevant, I think we can bring into life, and then I will, because it takes a bit of time to, what I'll say, unpack things and to give you a better a better opportunity to see where I'm coming from, and then you think about it yourself. So this is the wonderful joke pun book, and I may very well in good time put together a lovely book of jokes and puns, and even include things like what was it that I was going to include? Wisdom, quotes, and maybe even some of my songs, and just make it an all-around interesting, fun book with variety, and something no people would not expect. So the unexpected, that kind of thing. Definitely. Why does UNESCO care about the human genome? UNESCO regards the human genome as the heritage of humanity. UNESCO believes it should be protected and passed on to the future generations, and that advances in science need to be considered in the light of human rights. What is the International Bioethics Committee? Yeah, International Bioethics Committee was created in 1993. It's very interesting how I'm actually going to bring this up in such a way that what I've kind of grown to understand is certain things have been created to give the opposite. And the illusion that they all, that we have this caring body that exists, and but really at the end of the day, they have what they say what they say, but there's really no, how can I say, intention to how, it's just like Trudeau saying, you know what, this whole document thing, injection document thing isn't going to happen, there's no way, nope, against God, and then here we are. So sometimes we have to, at any rate, so UNESCO regards human genome as the heritage of humanity. Yeah, the chromosomes in the genome, the chromosomes are one thing. That is different than the DNA, apparently. So the DNA is kind of like the unraveling of the chromosomes and giving us the impression that they have an understanding deeper than the chromosomes. So if we're talking about genome, then that, yeah, theater, exactly. It's actually, and this is going to be one of the major traps, is and I'm actually going to speak to this in the mind and actually in the presentation regarding the ego. What is the ego? And bring it into the angel and devil. It was something that came to me several years ago when I was studying the ego, and I'll teach you what the ego is. You're going to do an exercise on what the ego is, so you can feel it. You can have more tangible understanding of what the egoic mind is, because there's not a lot of people that understand it. And I've asked psychologists, I've asked, after having a lengthy conversation with certain people, I've asked that question. Well, just nicely, just kindly, genuinely wondering what they learn about the ego in all kinds of professions, but including psychiatry, including psychology. And it's very interesting. The blank look on their face tells me everything, and then they just kind of grasp at something to bring something in. But what, that's not absolute, but I keep asking people about that. So we'll talk about that, and we'll bring that in, the whole theater of it, and how this gets down into the mind, and how it eventually, it's the controlling piece, right? So let's talk about a couple of things here. And this is about classroom capers still. Science teacher. When water becomes ice, what is the greatest change that takes place? And the bright student says, the price. Science teacher Sydney, what's the difference between electricity and lightning? Sydney, we have to pay for electricity. Is the truth out of the babe, and I don't want to say them babes, but let's say truth children, to truth be known, they're such smarties. Mother, I think our boy is going to be a nuclear physicist. Father, well, what makes you think so? Mother, well, I just spoke to his teacher, and she said he's taking up space. I'm going to read one more. I haven't read it, but let's just see here what it's going to say. Teacher, yes, Johnny, what is it? Johnny, I don't want to scare you, but Dad said if I didn't get better grades, someone is due for a licking. Oh, boy. That sounds like a smarty pants thinking, teacher, you better help me, otherwise he's going to come and get you. But next one, science teacher. Sandy, what is an atom? Sandy, the guy who went around with Eve. All right, one more here. Science teacher, what is BA plus NA? I think that's to the square. Is this small? Yeah, squared. Times 2 basically, or 2 squared. And the student, so ba plus na squared, and the student goes banana. There you go. Very cute. Like, some people have to come up with this stuff. They really do. Kudos to that. I mean, if you think about having to come up with a few jokes just like that, where would you be? Where would you be? It's just very interesting. So I'm just going to wish everybody a wonderful evening, a wonderful week. I am around most of this week and next week, so I may very well come on again, but I am going to focus on this presentation. I've got a pile of notes here that I have to kind of filter through and sort out the outline so that it comes across in a way it flows, right? It flows. And there's a lot more I know. I cannot put it in 3 hours. So I am just going to have to pick and choose and perhaps put some things to the side to be able to present maybe at another time. But anyway, we'll get there. So again, everybody take care. Thanks again, Howard, for your comments and for your links. And I will see you again live at 5 at some point in the future. Best of health and have some fun. And we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.